His Highness the Crown Prince Sheikh Mish'al Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received a written message addressed to His Highness the Emir Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah from His Excellency the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on bilateral relations, issues of common concern, and the latest regional and international developments. The message was conveyed to His Highness the Crown Prince by the personal envoy of the Palestinian President Yasser Mahmoud Abbas in the presence of the Foreign Minister Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Nasser Mohammed Al-Sabah. The meeting was attended by a host of senior officials at the Emiri Diwan and His Highness the Crown Prince Diwan, in addition to members of the accompanying Palestinian delegation. His Highness Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, received at the palace the personal envoy of His Excellency the Palestinian President Yasser Mahmoud Abbas and his accompanying delegation on the occasion of his visit to the country. The meeting was attended by the head of His Highness the Prime Minister's Diwan, Abdul Aziz Dakhil Al-Dakhil, the Under Secretary of His Highness the Prime Minister's Diwan, Sheikh Talal Al-Khalid Al-Sabah, and the Director of His Highness the Prime Minister's Office, Hamid Badr Al-Hamar. A decree was issued inviting voters to elect their parliament representatives in the National Assembly elections on Thursday, September 29th. The decree was based on an Emiri order issued on November 15, 2021, on deputizing His Highness the Crown Prince to exercise some of His Highness the Emir's constitutional powers, Law Number 35 of 1962, concerning the elections of members of the National Assembly, Law Number 42 of 2006, redefining the constituencies for the National Assembly elections, and Decree Number 136 of 2022 on dissolving the National Assembly, as well as the proposal of the Deputy Prime Minister and Acting Minister of Interior, which was approved by the Council of Ministers. The decree, to be published in the Official Gazette, is effective immediately and to be executed by the Council of Ministers. The Government Communications Center revealed that the Interior Ministry's Elections Affairs Department will receive candidacy applications for the 2022 National Assembly elections starting today for a period of 10 days, including public holidays. The center published on its official Twitter account that a decree was issued today, calling on Kuwaiti citizens to elect parliament members on Thursday, September 29th. The director of the Elections Affairs Department, Colonel Dr. Ahmed Al-Hajri, confirmed the department's readiness to receive candidacy applications starting today until Wednesday, September 7th, during the official working hours from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. The Foreign Minister expressed Kuwait's concern over the breakout of armed clashes in the Libyan capital Tripoli. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry voiced alarm over the clashes that threaten safety and security of the Libyan people and undermine the country's stability. The ministry affirmed the state of Kuwait's support for the Libyan state, the political process, or relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions designed to protect Libya's stability and sovereignty. Moreover, the ministry called upon all Libyan parties to stop the clashes, the escalations, and the blood spilling, and adopt political dialogue to resolve disputes for the sake of preserving Libya's higher interest and attain the people's aspirations for development and prosperity. Libya's capital was quit yesterday morning, a day after the worst fighting there for 2 years killed 32 people and injured 159, as forces aligned with a parliament-backed administration failed to dislodge the Tripoli-based government. Roads in the city were busy with motorists, shops were open, and people were clearing away smashed glass and other debris from Saturday's violence, with burned-out vehicles lining some streets in central Tripoli. The fighting has raised fears of a wider conflict in Libya over the political standoff between Prime Minister Abdelhamid Dbeibeh in Tripoli and Fathi Bashagha, who seeks to install a new government in the capital. Amid international condemnation, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, called for an immediate end to the violence and for genuine dialogue to get around Libya's political impasse. Turning to the Palestinian occupied territories, the Israeli occupation forces continued their aggressive policies against the Palestinians in the West Bank. According to officials, scores of Palestinians were injured as the forces conducted an overnight attack on the town of Dir Sharaf, west of Nablus. The official said the forces also closed the main road linking Nablus to Dolkrim and Jenin, forces Palestinians moving between the two cities to find alternative routes. Iraq's caretaker Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi warned that the political crisis in the country is threatening security achievements made in past years, stressing that the solution is for all political parties to make concessions for the interest of Iraq and the Iraqis. Al-Kadhimi's warning is a clear indication of the dangers of one of the Iraq's worst political crises since the war 2003, due to disagreements between the followers of influential politician Muqtada al-Sadr and rival groups since last year's parliamentary elections. Al-Sadr won the largest share of seats in the October elections, but failed to form a majority government, leading to what has become one of the worst political crises in Iraq in recent years. His bloc later resigned from parliament, while his supporters stormed the parliament building in Baghdad last month with demand that parliament be dissolved and early elections held. In Syria, the US-backed Kurdish security forces have launched a new operation targeting the IS sleeper cells in a large northeastern detention camp where violence has reached record levels. At least 44 people, including 14 women, have been killed this year in the El Hol camp, which holds internal refugees and families of suspected IS fighters. According to Ali Hassan, the spokesperson for the internal security forces operating in Syria's semi-autonomous northeast, the forces have launched the campaign because of the urgent head brought on by the escalation and the increase in violent cases by the IS in Al Hol camp. Earlier, the UN Refugee Agency described the situation at the camp as catastrophic, saying that an additional safe space should be created to protect women and young girls from attacks. The tense security situation is likely to persist in the Amhara region amid the ongoing security operations, with the calling on citizens to take all measures to deter the fighters of the Tigray front. The Tigray war spilled into Amhara, Ethiopia's second biggest regional state, in July 2021, with the Tigray People Liberation Front (TPLF) going to occupy several key towns in the region and causing widespread damage to key infrastructure. In recent days, several people were killed in the capital of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region, with the federal government denying involvement, saying that the Air Force only targeted military sites and accused the TPLF forces of staging civilian deaths. Moscow and Kiev traded fresh accusations of shelling around the Russian-controlled Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine, which has been a focus of international concern that fighting in the area could trigger a nuclear disaster. Zaporizhzhia, Europe's largest nuclear power plant, has been controlled by Russian forces since early March. Ukrainian staff continues to operate it, and in recent weeks, the two sides have traded blame for shelling near the plant. Ukraine's state nuclear company said Russian troops again shelled the ground of the plant complex in the last 24 hours. China's military said it was monitoring U.S. Navy vessels sailing through the Taiwan Strait, maintaining a high alert and ready to defeat any provocations. The U.S. Navy said the guided missile cruisers conducted a routine Taiwan Strait transit in accordance with international law. Earlier, the American Navy said 2 U.S. warships sailed through the Taiwan Strait, the first such transit since China staged unprecedented military drill around the island. The U.S. Navy said the transit demonstrates the U.S. commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Pakistan is appealing for further international assistance as flood continued to devastate the country, leaving people searching for a higher, drier ground. The National Disaster Management Authority said that the death toll from the monsoon rains has reached 1,033, with 119 killed in the past 24 hours. Earlier, the country's climate change minister said that floods have affected more than 30 million people in Pakistan over the last few weeks, calling the situation a climate-induced humanitarian disaster of epic proportions. The destruction of infrastructure and the breakdown in communications link had added to the difficulties forced by authorities conducting rescue and relief efforts. The previous show, the top news of the day, the following stories are from the live news segment. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the following. The space agency NASA announced a plan to land astronauts on the moon by 2025 and have enough infrastructure to keep them there for extended stays. NASA's eventual goal for setting up a colony on the moon could offer key information about the challenges that could come with the future expeditions to Mars. NASA will launch today a next-generation mega rocket, the Space Launch System, SLS, and the Ariane capsule, which is designed to carry the crew, sending the uncrewed capsule around the moon and back to Earth on a 6-week test. And over in Indonesia, on the launch swords, a dozen would-be the chevaliers are put through their paces in a gallant effort to keep alive European medieval martial art taught hundreds of years ago. But it's not a scene from Game of Thrones or the adventure of Robin Hood. It's a breezy afternoon in the middle of Jakarta, one of the world's biggest megacities. The fighters are practicing sword fighting techniques that were honored across Europe from the 14th to 18th century, known as historical European martial art, Hama. The Muay Thai Migger was established in 2016 after several members of a local fan club of English author J.R.R. Tolkien, who had the Lord of the Rings trilogy, showed an interest in Hema. Nearly 50 people have recently joined the group in Jakarta and its sister branch in the German city of Bandung. The group's name means Fellowship of Swordsmen and comes from the Sindarin language, one of the fictional languages created by Tolkien in his novel, said Ahmed Razel Solisa, one of the founding members of the group. Hama enthusiasts usually pair over manuals left behind by past masters as they learn, train, and work the moves. Solisa said that's only the fighting and fandom of film that inspired the duelists. They have also loved studying the history of European sword fighting. And now we shall light on the latest economic developments from across the globe. Stay tuned. Business world that keep changing, fluctuating, and adding globally, further seeing the wheel of international development. So for now, let's start business. Boursa Kuwait closes its first session of the week in the red board, with all indices going down while the index of global stock markets fell during the weekend after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the U.S. Germany will need tight monetary policy for some time before inflation is under control. The Asian MSCI's gauge of stocks across the globe shed 2.47%, its worst day in more than 2 months, while Wall Street's main indexes fell, with Powell comments dragging down mega-cap growth and technology stocks. The European stock slid as investors also fretted over downbeat German consumer sentiment data due to rising energy costs. Oil prices ended higher during the weekend, boosted by signals from Saudi Arabia that OPEC could cut output, but trading was unstable as investors digested and ultimately shredded off warnings from the head of the U.S. Federal Reserve about economic pain ahead. The Brent crude future rose $1.65 to settle at $100.99 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude future rose 54 cents to settle at $93.06 a barrel. World contract rose and fell by $1 throughout the session. And the US dollar settled near 2-decade high against the major currencies ahead of a speech by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Traders are waiting indications about the U.S. Central Bank plan to tighten monetary policy in order to curb inflation. The dollar index, which measures the performance of the greenback against 6 major currencies, has risen steadily over the past 2 weeks and is very close to a 2-decade peak of $102.29 recorded in mid-July. And in the latest trading, it was stable at $108.470. Our globalized interconnected world is changing more rapidly than any other point in history. Technology is evolving as new areas are emerging with groundbreaking innovations. From business to technology, also listeners, to move on to our next segment on technology. An immersive city tour using virtual reality is sharing the histories of marginalized communities. Bristol Story Trail captures 23 stories from local businesses across the city in areas including Knoll, Southmead, and Kingswood. The digital story map can be followed using an app created by Marcus Smith. Mr. Smith said he wanted to encourage people to see the city in a different way while visiting part of the city they might not know. People will also be able to use augmented reality on their phones if they want to take part. Another innovation is the four-legged mini cheetah rabbit from the MIT. The cheetah rabbit just got one step closer to earning its epic name, thanks to a style of machine learning that's reminiscent of Neo in the Matrix. With an unnatural-looking gait that only a machine could devise, the robot is now capable of running 8 to 9 miles per hour, a significant increase from its top speed of about 5.5 mph back in 2019. So, what changed? Like Neo and Morpheus practicing Kung Fu in a simulated training environment, the mini cheetah was able to take what is learned from simulated trial and error and apply that knowledge into the real world, making it faster and more capable of traversing different terrains. Next, the researchers are planning to use similar machine learning techniques to teach the mini cheetah how to manipulate objects in its environment. In diving into basic news and healthcare, this section contains news regarding health news publications as well as information on health programs and campaign. A new study found that the antiviral tecovirimat appeared to be safe and effective for the treatment of monkeypox symptoms and skin lesions. Tecovirimat TPpox is an FDA-approved antiviral drug for the treatment of smallpox. It limits viral spread in the body by inhibiting the work of the protein involved in releasing the involved virus. For the new study published in the journal JAMA, the team included 25 patients with monkeypox who were given tecovirimat therapy. Patients with skin lesions in multiple body parts or in sensitive areas, such as the face or other regions, were offered oral tecovirimat treatment. The treatment was weight-based, given every 8 or 12 hours, and was taken within 30 minutes of high-fat meal. And speaking of monkeypox, the Australian Victoria Health Authority say there have been a jump in the number of monkeypox cases in the state over the past week. Victoria now has 59 confirmed cases of the disease, an increase of 20 cases in a week. And moving on to our last segment of the day, let's talk about Jolt sports. Liverpool earned the first win of the season in stunning fashion, equaling the record for the biggest ever Premier League victory with a 9-0 thrashing of promoted Bournemouth at Anfield. 2 goals inside the opening 6 minutes from Luis Diaz and Harvey Elliott put the hosts into a commanding position from the off. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Roberto Firmino, Virgil van Dijk, and Fabio Carvalho all contributed to the scoreline as well. Along with Manchester United twice and Leicester City, 4 teams have now scored 9 in the Premier League match. In Barcelona coach Xavi Hernandez confident about registering the recent French defender Jules Koundé as the Barca player for tonight's La Liga clash against Real Valladolid. But if Barca are unable to register Koundé by next Wednesday, the 23-year-old France defender would become a free agent due to a release clause included in his contract signed last month when Barca paid 50 million euros to Sevilla to make him one of their marquee signings of the new season. The club are taking several other steps to increase their revenue in order to offset losses and reduce debt to meet the FFP rules. And that was the News Buzz of the day. Join us again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for more. News Buzz was brought to you by Red Kuwait from the English News and Program Department. I'm your host, Simsar Faraj, and our wonderful team behind the scenes as follows. Director Khalid Al-Nagnizi, Executive Director Sabra Darshi, and Editors Zara Idris and Aman Ramyan. News Buzz team and I would like to thank all listeners for tuning in at 960 kilohertz on medium wave or 90.8 megahertz on the FM band. And for all of us here at Kuwait, we wish you a great morning and a good day. Thank you and goodbye for now.